So Bernie Sanders has just come out with a new video that he posted on Twitter where he is pledging that US policy on the Israel-Gaza conflict will shift if Kamala Harris wins. And he's saying that to people who are anti-Israel and hostile to Israel, just you wait, stick with Kamala because she's going to go harder against Netanyahu once she wins, and she has to tone it down right now for political reasons. So sad to hear this, especially coming from a Jewish man, Senator Bernie Sanders, who I know is deeply disconnected from his Judaism and that identity, but nonetheless, it is still sad to hear this. And when Israel is facing such a momentous period where she faces moments of vulnerability, to have such betrayal from people like this, it's very sad. So I want to read to you the report of the Jerusalem Post, which has surmised what he's been saying about this. Senator Bernie Sanders has pledged that Kamala Harris' presidency would bring a transformative shift in US policy towards Israel, promising efforts towards a Gaza ceasefire, more aid, and rebuilding a Palestinian infrastructure, while warning the Trump victory would deepen alliances with Israel's right-wing leadership and lead to setbacks on all kinds of issues. He said that Sanders committed that Harris would work with him to pursue a ceasefire, and all kinds of, the classic anti-Israel talking points where they talk about just various things that they charge Israel with doing. Clearly leaning into this notion that Israel is somehow fighting an unnecessary war. He says, "I promise you, after Kamala wins, we will together do everything we can to change US policy towards Netanyahu," expressing confidence that Harris would approach the region with those kinds of priorities. And he highlights his frustration with the administration's support for Israel's extensive military response following the October 7th attacks, which of course killed 1,200 Israelis and led to 250 hostages. And he acknowledged Israel's right to self-defense, but he condemned what he described as an all-out war on Palestinians in Gaza, leading to 42,000 Palestinian deaths and severe damage to Gaza's infrastructure, healthcare, and educational system. So bizarre, isn't it? It's so bizarre. It's almost as if they think Israel's doing this just for fun. Like, Israel just wants to target Gaza infrastructure for the hell of it. They want to have an all-out war rather than just the necessary war that Bernie might think is acceptable as part of self-defense. What exactly do they think that Israel should be doing differently? Look at all these people that have died. Do you want to talk about how many of them are Hamas? Do you want to talk about the lengths Israel's gone to limit non-combatant casualties? No, we just say we want a ceasefire now. So, can Israel not finish off the job of destroying Hamas? Can Israel not finish off the job of ensuring security for her people? How can you say, on the one hand, Israel has the right to defend itself, but when you say, look at all these people that have been killed, it looks like about 50% of those that have been killed were Hamas. And by the way, people that we consider civilians or non-combatants, we don't know how many of them were complicit with Hamas while not being... combatants are defined as people who are actually fighting militarily. But if you're hiding munitions in your homes, if you're a teacher in an UNRWA school teaching kids to be martyrs, are you simply an innocent bystander? International law would say yes. I'm not so sure halacha Jewish law would be as simplistic about that. It's much more complicated. And I find it bizarre when this would be, if it is basically almost 1-to-1 ratio of combatant to non-combatant killed. I find it bizarre that people would say this is it's way too many. Actually, it's the lowest in the history of modern urban warfare. And it's completely remarkable given that I can't really think of other examples of urban warfare that's been fought like this, where you have an entire army basically hidden many, many meters underground. So Israel should be commended for what they've managed to do. Of course, all war and pain and blood loss is heart-wrenching and terrible. But the entire onus lies on Hamas. And I don't understand what it is with this dictating of Israel's got to do this. And to me, it just seems so emotional, so unthought through. I do understand that people feel like this is just dragging on and wars should be shorter. I agree. Yes, wars should be shorter. But that would also mean fighting far more comprehensively in a far quicker fashion, which would mean probably a lot more casualties in a much shorter period of time. But it would allow for the war to be over faster, and for a generation not to grow up on either side, on both sides, knowing only war. And also would mean that you don't have to have, it seems, nearly 3 times as many soldiers as there are hostages being killed. And why are they being killed? To protect the hostages' lives. That's partly why they're fighting like that, by going in more on foot. And also to protect civilians on the other side. But many are starting to question, is that the right approach? It's already in Hamas's interest to keep the hostages alive. But letting them do anything that affects your strategy and makes you potentially cripple yourself in the fighting is basically feeds into their hands and tells them that taking hostages pays. So it's a very messy situation, but nonetheless, Israel has chosen a specific route. It's completely clear why they're doing it. And to back down by support, in support of them, I'm sorry, but people that say Israel has a right to defend itself, but then say these kind of things, but we need a ceasefire now, and we want to restore funding to UNRWA and all these things, I'm sorry, but it's double talk. The article continues, addressing his supporters concerns about Harris' stance, Sanders stated, in the Senate, in Congress, the Republicans have worked overtime to block aid to the starving children in Gaza, while noting that Harris and the Biden administration support increased humanitarian aid to Gaza. Sanders drew a contrast between Harris' stance and Trump's endorsement of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom Sanders described as a like-minded right-wing extremist ally to Trump. Sometimes feel these words have honestly lost their meaning. Meanwhile, we know that so much of this aid that goes into Gaza is stolen by Hamas and used to fund their war. We have video footage of this, of Hamas stealing aid trucks. That's why they're starving. That's why there's war. All these things are self-inflicted by Hamas. This is another example of why if you'd fight more comprehensively, more quickly, and yes, said we're not going to give aid if it's going to go to Hamas, it would have been short-term pain, but potentially could have got this war over with much faster, and both sides wouldn't have had to face a year of war. Of course, it's very difficult to know all the details of what's going on, but that's just what it seems like from an outsider perspective looking in. So Sanders concludes by saying this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. I sort of feel like they say that with every election, don't they? This is the most consequential election that I could ever remember. It will shape, they always say that. So I always take that with a pinch of salt. But you know what? I have to say that the world does seem like it's in a more precarious situation than it has for many, many years, even decades. And so perhaps there is more truth to how consequential this election really is. He certainly is right about that one. If you've made it so far in this video, I have a request for you. JTV has been having a really big impact in spreading the truth about Israel and creating positive associations with the Jewish people, Judaism, and Israel. We've really grown a lot, particularly in the last year, and we're having a really significant impact, both for Jews and non-Jews. But I really want to take JTV to the next level so we can start to compete with the other big online media beasts that are often peddling anti-Israel content. And the way we're going to do that is to scale even faster. So I'd love to build a team where we have other presenters doing shows like me. Let's start doing documentaries, supplementary content, animated content, etc., etc. And to do that, I'd like to build a bit of a team. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one fundraising day, just one, where we try and build up some funding in order to fund such a team. Now, to do that, it's going to obviously require people to get involved. And I'm wondering if you would consider if you're watching JTV content and appreciate what we do and want to help partner with us in taking this to the next level and spreading the truth farther and wider than ever before, I wonder if you'd consider partnering with us simply by running a mini page on the fundraiser that we do, where you just reach out to your contacts on that day that we choose to fundraise and see if they'll all chip in. If you'd be up for doing that, of which I would be so grateful, then please click on the Google form link in the video description of this video, where you can simply just put in a few contact details. It'll be a very small commitment, as I say, literally just one day that we'll all agree upon as a collective community. But the impact is going to be so big. There's such strength in numbers. If we all pull together and do this, we can take this to the next level. And as I say, all of us can partner together in bringing and spreading the truth to the whole world. So please do consider clicking on that link, filling in the form, and I'll be in touch very soon to talk about the next steps. Small commitment, but a big impact. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.